All right, well, thank you for coming in to meet with me today. We're going to go over the ABIS for Sarah. Okay. You filled out the parent form, and so we have scored that for you. And let's go in and start talking about her results. So I've provided you with the report as well as just more of the quantifiable report from the ABIS. And this is my write-up here.
Okay.
So you're welcome to follow along, or we can share this document together. So the ABIS is an assessment that is used to assess an individual's adaptive skills. This provided us with a comprehensive norm-referenced assessment for Sarah. It was designed to evaluate whether she displays various functional skills necessary for daily living. The ABIS focuses on independent behaviors and measures what an individual actually does in addition to measuring what she may be able to do. So Sarah scored within the average range for a 7-year-old girl. Her standard score was 106, and we talk about standard scores by looking at a bell curve. And if we look at this report right here, this is our bell curve that we follow, and so 100 is our average. That's right in the middle. So her score was 106, so it's just right next to our mean right there.
Okay.
And we are able to report that score with 95% confidence that her score would fall within the interval of 103 to 109. That gives a little bit of room for testing errors. And so her percentile rank is 66, which means in a lineup of 100 kids, she would be in the 66th place. 50 percentile would be where that's like your average, exactly right in the middle.
Okay.
She's just right over that cusp. There were a few skill areas that we broke down, and then those were compiled into the domains for Sarah. So I'm going to review those real quick for you, and then I will provide more specific information in each category of things that Sarah did well at and things we may want to work with her on a little bit more. In the area of communication, Sarah scored above average. For community use, she was average. Her functional academics, she was average. Her home living and school living skills, she was average. Health and safety, she was average. For her leisure, she was above average. Her self-care, she was above average. Self-direction, average, and her social was above average. When those got combined into their adaptive domains, she had 2 domains in the average range and 1 domain above average. Her above average was social, and her 2 average domains were conceptual and practical, which made her general composite be that 106 that we've just talked about,
Okay.
which is in the average range. So for Sarah, in the conceptual domain, that's comprised of communication, functional academics, and self-direction. Okay, so she scored for her conceptual domain a standard score of 108, which was the percentile rank of 70. So again, she's still over that average mark. Sarah, from your report, was able to communicate appropriately. She follows verbal instructions. She answers complex questions. She looks at other people's faces while they are speaking. Sarah is able to work independently and ask for help. She can work on a home or school activity for at least 15 minutes without any reminders. She's able to start a household chore when you ask her to do so, which is probably a great help at home for you. And she avoids behaviors that could embarrass or bring shame to your family. Sarah is able to gather her supplies that she needs before beginning a task, and she can write letters, read menus, tell time, keep score during games, answer simple questions about a story that's read to her, and read and obey common signs such as do not enter, exit, stop. Within this domain, there are some areas where Sarah wasn't doing something all the time. You scored her more as sometimes she's doing that. So Sometimes she is controlling her feelings when not getting her own way. Sometimes she controls her temper when disagreeing with friends. Sarah may or may not stop an activity that she's really enjoying without complaints. And she will sometimes work on hard tasks without becoming discouraged or quitting. But that may be something where she's also needing some coaching, it sounds like. One thing Sarah is not doing at this time is writing her own address. For the leisure and social skills, that is included in the social domain. And this is where Sarah scored above average. She was in the 90th percentile rank. So she's doing very well with leisure and social skills.
I believe that.
Some of her strengths included inviting others to her house for a fun activity, allowing others to go first in games or activities. She engages in a variety of activities, waits her turn, and attends activities at other people's houses or in the community. So she really likes to be a part of something. Sarah has good relationships with you and your husband from your report. She also enjoys other adults. And when she feels an emotion, she's able to communicate that to you. She can respect authority and is well liked by other kids her age. Mm-hmm. She uses her manners, is sympathetic, and displays care towards younger children. Something that we just want to make sure we monitor with Sarah that she continues to develop is trying new activities and using good judgment when choosing her friends and maintaining those friendships. And in the practical domain, the skills that were assessed are community use, home living, health and safety, and self-care. Sarah scored average in this domain, and her standard score was 100, so she was exactly at that average spot, a percentile rank of 50. Some of her strengths include looking both ways before crossing a street. Sarah can order her own meals when you guys are eating out at a restaurant. She packs her own clothes and supplies for overnight trips, so she's becoming aware of what things she will need. Sarah shows respect for others' possessions and privacy. She follows age-appropriate health and safety expectations. Some examples would be buckling her own seatbelt, caring for minor injuries, following the rules at the park or the playground. Sarah's able to use a public restroom alone. She wears a variety of clothes, dresses herself, and I think you mentioned she loves clothes, so this is something she's doing often.
Right.
Yes, probably a lot of laundry.
Yeah.
For you, yeah. And she manages her own personal hygiene, which is great, brushing her teeth, washing her hands, all of that. Within this domain, there were a few areas that Sarah needs to continue to develop her skill set with. The first being she is not able to follow directions to a nearby place. And that may be because she's 7. Maybe it's something you haven't really felt comfortable, sending her out to go do something kind of independently. But to build that skill, maybe even just having her, deliver something just to the neighbor and seeing if she can just follow some of those steps just to start to build that capacity if you feel comfortable with that.
Okay.
Sarah does not clean her room regularly. No. And sometimes we'll put things back where they belong after using them. And within the home, Sarah does help with organizing, but she does not always start with the most important tasks first. So overall, Sarah is doing excellent. There are no significant or major adaptive deficiencies in any of the adaptive areas. So she is demonstrating for us age-appropriate behavior. So at this time, we do not have any adaptive behavior concerns on our end. Did you have any questions for me?
Yeah. When we're talking about her emotions and controlling her emotions, how can we help her develop more control over her emotions? I worry about it because she's a girl as she gets older and the drama and all that. How can we help guide her to be able to do that, especially as those years approach?
Well, I think one great asset for Sarah right now is that she is able to identify her emotions. So I think if you are seeing some of those emotions develop, if we're able to really label that for her and make sure that she's identifying in the moment what it is she's feeling,
Okay.
and having those conversations with her about it's okay to feel this way, or it's okay if this situation made you feel like this, but this is how we need to respond to it instead of whatever the
Okay.
behavior may have been that she chose. There are some great children's books that authors have written that really are kind of like social stories that I really discuss how to handle emotions
Okay.
through the story of another child. And so that may be something too, and I can help you find some of those if there's specific
Okay.
emotions that you're thinking of that could help teach her how to do that without feeling like you're just giving her a lecture or something like that. She's just reading a story and then learning
Right.
the skills that way.
Okay. And then the last thing you were talking about with the organization and the cleaning her room and all that
Yeah.
stuff. What can we do to help her develop those skills of organization at home?
Well, a checklist is always a great way to start. So if we're thinking about within her room, if there's things that you expect consistently are done within the room, she could have up on her wall a checklist. Even if it's a daily checklist, it could be something with a dry erase marker.
Mm-hmm.
So that every morning she marks it off and then cleans it the next night because she's done it all. Kind of listing out the things that you expect to be done, and that will kind of build that independence for her.
Mm-hmm.
But the expectation is visible for her to see. In terms of prioritizing the organizing,
Mm-hmm.
doing something
Mm-hmm.
important first, the checklist would really benefit her there too if you really broke it down. And if there's something on there that she would prefer, if you put it at the end, that's kind of her motivating factor to get through
Okay.
these things I don't like so much to get to this part of organizing that I do like.
Okay.
So I would recommend using a checklist to start and see if that kind of helps
Okay.
her develop that skill.
Okay. Good. We can do that.
Awesome. Did you have any other questions, concerns, thoughts on Sarah?
No.
No?
It's
Great.
these are great results.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in and meeting
Yeah.
with me
Thank
today.
you for explaining it to me.